Explaining the U.S. invasion of Panama. In the 1960s, Omar Torrijos took over Panama and started a military dictatorship. He did not, however, take the title of president, and instead would decide to rule alongside a civilian government. He would keep relatively close relations with the United States and would even negotiate for them to give the Panama Canal back to Panama in the year 2000. The Panama Canal opened in the early 20th century and had been under American occupation for decades. In the 1980s, Torrijos would die, shortly after Ronald Reagan came into power in the United States. Some would speculate that he was assassinated by the U.S. government. In 1983, General Manuel Antonio Noriega would come to power in Panama as the new military dictator. Just like Torrijos, he would never take the title of president and would rule alongside a civilian government. However, many believed that fraud had helped the military candidate, or Dito Boleta, win the presidential vote in 1984. Plus, Noriega was heavily involved in drug trafficking and allegedly killed an activist who attempted to expose that. However, he still remained in close relations with the U.S. initially. He was paid by the CIA for years and helped U.S.-backed soldiers in Nicaragua. However, relations would worsen between the two countries after he removed President Dito Barletta from power and his drug trafficking was made public. Because of this, aid was cut from Panama and troops were placed inside of the Panama Canal. There would then be a failed coup attempt against Noriega, and his ally, Carlos Duque, was set to fail the election in 1989. The opponents proved electoral fraud and claimed victory, but were beaten by paramilitaries. Because of this, the United States would recognize the opposition leader, Guillermo Endara, as the real president of Panama. However, the United States was already planning to invade Panama after President Noriega was indicted for drug offenses in the United States, along with the fact that he started diplomatic relations with the Soviet Union, Cuba, and other communist countries after he was pressured to step down. And so, after the disputed election in 1989, the United States strengthened their military inside of the Panama Canal and imposed sanctions on Panama. There would be a standoff between the two countries until December, at which point Noriega would declare himself the leader of Panama. After this, he would say that the United States' actions were an act of war, and Panamanians and paramilitary groups within Panama would ambush and kill U.S. Marines. Because of this, the United States, under rule of President H.W. Bush, would invade Panama while Endara was being sworn into office. The Air Force would carry out bombing raids, and around 20,000 soldiers would take their position around the canal. In Panama City, the United States would free a U.S. prisoner and would destroy the headquarters of the Panamanian Defense Force. The Panamanians were able to take down a few U.S. helicopters, but were unable to handle the extreme power of the U.S. military. Noriega would take refuge in the Vatican City's embassy. The United States had destroyed all means of Noriega escaping, but they could not just destroy the embassy. So, instead, they would use psychological warfare, and this psychological warfare included blasting rock music in an attempt to flush him out of the embassy. The Organization of American States would condemn the invasion and said that the United States was breaking international law. Despite this, the siege of the embassy continued until July, when Noriega surrendered. Noriega was subsequently arrested and put in prison inside of France. But in 2017, he would be released, but also soon after, he would die of a brain tumor, also in 2017. In conclusion, the U.S. invasion of Panama started because of one man's addiction for drug trafficking, along with him starting a military dictatorship. Thank you for watching this video on the U.S. invasion of Panama.